Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakudash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from hold to rule well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another Let's Do the Spirit. Now I'm entitled this one, These Other Camps Don't Have the Truth. Because majority of these other Israelite camps that are calling themselves Israelites that are claiming to be in the truth, apart from the Great Millstone, starting with our apostles and elders and bishops on down, and the likewise camps that teach the likewise doctrine of GMS, the 100% truth. Other than GMS and the affiliate camps, these other camps from the IUIC, the ISUPK, Genesis, Sakari, and all these offshoot camps, WFI and HOI, all these camps that aren't really pushing Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. They're not pushing Yahweh Shai. They're not pushing prophecy. Really, they're just out there to get a large following, to be able to gather up, all these donations and tithes, because really, they're just in it for the money. They're in it for the clout, the fame. They don't really know what this truth is about. Ultimately to receive salvation, to proclaim to the world that Yahweh Shai is on his way back. And with that comes judgment. It comes with the downfall of Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, his kingdom falling down, and ushering in the kingdom of heaven, which is going to be here on the planet Earth. Looking forward to the new bodies, which the elect are going to have when they get beamed up out of the destruction of America, which is Babylon the Great. We're proclaiming these things unto these Israelites and Jake, that don't know the Israelites, but also these other nations. And also, we're warning our people of what's about to come. All the different doom and gloom, Jacob's trouble, martial law, and the most important one, the mass implementation of the MOTB and its proper breakdown, the micro CHIP, that it's about to come upon the whole world during the hour of temptation to test those, really to test the entire world. But the elect are going to be kept from the hour of temptation, because Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai has already ordained that from the foundations of the earth. But these other camps, they're not pushing that. Really, they're pushing the spirit of mirth. They're pushing the spirit of partying and chilling, peace and safety, when Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is not dealing with that. Especially these so-called Christian churches, these anti-Hamashiach churches. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is about to really deal with these false prophets that aren't in it for the better interest of Jake, of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is Matthew chapter 7 and verse 15. It says, beware of false prophets. And this is Yahweh Shai speaking, who everybody ignorantly calls Christ, JC. He already told us, way back then, he told the disciples that later became apostles, beware of false prophets, along with his followers. The followers of Yahweh Shai, says, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. And that's going into these false, these false doctrine Israelite camps, these so-called Christian churches, and really these other religions that are telling Jake, that everything's okay. There's not going to be any destruction. There's not going to be any doom and gloom. But Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai already told us to watch out for, if they're not in the spirit of Yahweh Shai, which is the spirit of prophecy, then really, that's how Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is not really dealing with them. This is Titus chapter 1 and verse 10. It says, for there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision. And who are the ones of the circumcision? Going into those who know that they're Israelites, which is these other camps from the IUIC, ISUPK, Sakari, Genesis. They're not in it so Jake can receive deliverance. They're not telling them about Jacob's trouble, martial law, the hour of temptation. You know, they're over here talking about the river of fire and that Gentiles, you know, going into these other heathens, you know, these so-called white people, so-called Arabians, so-called Chinese can make it, you know, and ultimately that's all, you know, deceivable, you know, that's all deceiving their congregation, because Yahweh Shemel Shai didn't tell us to go out there and tell, you know, the whole world, oh yeah, you get delivered. You know, it don't matter if you're not an Israelite. No, Yahweh Shemel Shai isn't dealing with these other heathen nations, but only the nation of Israel. And on this side, he's only dealing with the elect of the nation of Israel, the elect. It says verse 11, whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they ought not, for filthy lucre's sake. And that's the main reason why they're teaching all these, you know, false breakdown of the MOTB. You know, they may be pushing the names, but they're not really pushing Yahweh Shai and his importance. You know, they're pushing that you got to keep the law 100% to be delivered, to be saved. You know, but okay, they're telling them you got to keep the law 100% to be saved, but saved from what? You know, what is coming that you need to be saved from? Ultimately going to the destruction of America from the intercontinental ballistic missiles, which is going to cause the lake of fire over here in America, in the land of America, because it's going to be completely destroyed. It's going to get hit by millions of missiles. But they're not pushing that. Now they're pushing, you know, that America's not going to be destroyed, that, you know, it's not a lake of fire, it's a river of fire over there in the Middle East. You know, all sorts of manners of madness, because all these false breakdowns, you know, it brings in more followers, because Jake gets tired, you know, these 2/3 Jakes, wicked Jake, they get tired of hearing the same message. You know, they love to come on the video and say, oh, y'all bringing out the same precepts. Y'all been bringing that out. Y'all brought that out yesterday. Y'all bringing it out again. Nah, I want to hear something new. So that's why they go to these other Israelite camps, to these IUICs, to the Sikaris, you know, because ultimately they bring out new things, you know, which ultimately is false doctrine. But to Jake, you know, Jake always wants to hear a new thing. Jake doesn't want to hear the same breakdown. Oh, y'all been talking about the micro him. You know, I'm tired of hearing that. Let me hear something else. You know, tell me that, you know, it is sin. Tell me that it's white women. No, that's what Jake wants to hear. They don't want to hear the simplicity in Yahweh Shai. That's ultimately why Yahweh Shemel Shai is going to allow those, you know, the sheep, along with the shepherd, to be put to death, because they're not being warned. And even if they are being warned by the true prophets of Yahweh Shemel Shai, they're not taking heed. No, they rather continue to listen to these false leaders, these false prophets, because it feels good to the flesh. This is Isaiah 56 and verse 10. His watchmen are blind. They are all ignorant. They are all dumb dogs. They could not bark sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. And that's majority of these Israelites, these false churches, these Christian churches, these other Israelite camps. They're dumb dogs. They're not barking. They're not blowing the trumpet, warning of what's about to come upon the planet Earth, about Jacob's trouble, martial law. You know, all hell's about to break loose. You know, World War III. You know, they rather, you know, chill, you know, have Passover at the strip club, and, you know, Passovers with, you know, thrones and flashy garments, coming on a horse. But Yahweh Shemel Shai is not dealing with that. Ultimately, he told us out there to go warn our people, to go tell our people of who they really are, to tell our people that America is going to be destroyed. But what is Jake doing? These false Israelite camps teaching the complete opposite, teaching that everything is going to be okay. You know, America is not going to be destroyed. You know, there's no danger coming. Just relax, just chill. You know, kick your feet up. You know, make some money, because America's not going to be destroyed. You know, the dollar's not going to collapse. That's what these camps are doing to their congregation, especially these, you know, so-called Christians, these anti-Hamashiachs. You know, teaching about prosperity doctrine. You know, all manners of madness. Verse 11, yeah, they are greedy dogs, which can never have enough, and they are shepherds that cannot understand. They all look to their own way, everyone for his gain from his quarter. And that's why these camps are teaching these false doctrines, these Christian churches, because they sold out. They got the 501c3 So Esau Edom, he tells them, what they can teach and what they cannot teach. That's why they're constantly changing their doctrine. They're constantly adding new things and taking things out. So that's how you know that ultimately these camps, they've sold out, because they're in it for the bag. They're in it for fame. They're not in it for Yahweh Bashemel Shine Truth and Sincerity. It says verse 12, come ye, say then, I will fetch wine, and we will fill ourselves with strong drink, and tomorrow shall be as this day, and much more abundant. And that's why they keep changing the doctrine, because Esau Edom every time, like, oh, yeah, I got another bag for you, but you gotta change this up. Now you gotta teach that heathens can make it. Now you gotta teach that so-called white people can make it. And I got this other 500,000 for you. But really, you could buy Jake cheap. You could buy Jake, like in an interrogation room. You buy him a meal and he'll snitch on the whole crew. That's all it takes for Jake to sell out. So really, Esau, he's probably not even offering him that much, but yet here's Jake selling out for a couple $1,000s. That it's about to be burned up. His dollar's about to collapse, but yet Jake is still out here selling out. This is Proverbs 23 and verse 23. Buy the truth and sell it not. Also wisdom and instruction and understanding. So we're not supposed to be out here, getting the truth and making a merchandise out of it. Like in John chapter 2, what did Yahweh Shai do? When the wicked scribes and Pharisees, were making a merchandise out of the Lord's house. He went out there with a whip, flipped the tables over, and ultimately we come in that same spirit. It makes us, it puts that spirit of being, rebuking these other camps, because they're making a merchandise out of Yahweh Bashemel Shai's house. They're making a merchandise out of the truth, selling breakdowns, selling prayers and all manners of stuff that should be freely given out, monetizing their YouTube channels and selling Hebrew Israelite t-shirts. But Yahweh Bashemel Shai is about to deal with these false camps. This is Jeremiah chapter 14 and verse 13. Then said I, Lord, Yahweh Bashemel Shai, behold, the prophets say unto them, ye shall not see the sword, neither shall ye have famine, but I will give you assured peace in this place. And that's what these false Israelite camps are telling Jake. They're telling Jake that there's not going to be any Jacob's trouble, that it already passed, that the road to the kingdom of heaven is going to be easy. There's not going to be any straight gate that you have to go through. It's all going to be smooth sailing. So you don't have to worry about Jacob's trouble. You don't have to worry about martial law. You don't have to worry about all hell breaking loose. Just chill out. Just enjoy, life in Babylon the Great, because everything is going to continue as it's been. That's what they keep telling. That's what they keep telling their congregation. Not knowing that all hell is about to break loose. Verse 14, then the Lord Yahweh Bashemel Shai said unto me, the prophets prophesied lies in my name. I sent them not, neither have I commanded them, neither spake unto them. They prophesy unto you false vision and divination, and a thing of naught, and the deceit of their heart. So they're teaching based out of their own heart, out of their own mind. Whatever floats to their mind, they'll just blurt it out and teach it to their congregation. Oh, now heathens can make it. There's not going to be any Jacob's trouble. The MOTB is in the micro seed. That's what they're telling their congregation. Teaching out of deceit, out of their own heart. I don't even say prophesying, but so-called teaching in the real names. Yahweh Shai, but they're not coming in that spirit. Verse 15, therefore thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashemel Shai concerning the prophets that prophesy in my name, I sent them not. Yet they say, sword and famine shall not be in his land. By sword and famine shall those prophets be consumed. And that's how these wicked ass Jakes, these 2/3 Jakes, they're going to get put to death by the sword and famine. It says verse 16, and the people to whom they prophesy shall be cast out in the streets of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is the people before is a place. Where's the majority of Israel at? Here in America. It says, because of the famine and the sword. And they shall have none to bury them, their wives, nor their sons, nor their daughters, for I will pour out their wickedness upon them. So that majority of our people, they're just gonna have to get put to death because they love following after these false camps and these false leaders. They love teaching false doctrine for filthy lucre's sake. So Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is about to deal with these camps that are in it, for their own vainglory. But that's pretty much the point. Praise this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Kakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom.